Imagine a nation surging ahead in clean energy, adding more new renewable power in just 6 months than many other countries manage in several years, or even a decade. That nation is India. In the first half of the year 2025, India installed more than 22 gigawatts of renewable energy capacity, shattering its previous records and setting a new milestone in the global push for a sustainable future. To put this in perspective, this is more than the total renewable capacity some developed countries have built over the last 5 years combined. The momentum is stunning, but behind these impressive headlines lies a complex, high-stakes contest, a race between the bright promise of a green future and the deeply rooted reality of a country still powered, in large part, by coal and other fossil fuels. Is India's renewable surge the turning point for a true energy revolution? Or are there deeper, more stubborn challenges lurking below the surface? Can this remarkable growth continue? Or is it a temporary spike driven by policy incentives and market pressures? To understand where India might be heading, let's rewind and trace the evolution of its energy journey, a story that stretches back more than 4 decades, shaped by ambition, innovation, and the daunting realities of development. The seeds of India's renewable transformation were planted in the 1980s, when the government established the Commission for Additional Sources of Energy and later the Department of Non-Conventional Energy Sources, which would eventually become the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy. Early on, India experimented with wind energy in the breezy plains of Tamil Nadu and small hydropower projects in the Himalayan foothills. But these were modest beginnings, limited by technology, funding, and a lack of urgency in national policy. The landscape shifted dramatically in the first decade of the new millennium. The passage of the Electricity Act in 2003 mandated that distribution companies purchase a certain share of their electricity from renewable sources. Then, in 2010, India launched the Jawaharlal Nehru National Solar Mission, a landmark policy that set ambitious solar targets and unlocked a flood of public and private investment. Under this mission, India moved from scattered rooftop installations to building massive solar parks, like the sprawling Chiranka Solar Park in Gujarat, which became a symbol of the country's solar ambitions. State-level policies soon followed. Feed-in tariffs guaranteed above-market prices for green energy, while renewable purchase obligations required utilities to include a rising share of clean power in their mix. These tools gave developers confidence to invest. The results were dramatic. The cost of solar power in India has fallen by more than 90% since 2010, making it among the most affordable anywhere in the world. India's commitment to the Paris Agreement in 2015 injected new urgency and international credibility into its energy transition. That year, India, alongside France, launched the International Solar Alliance, an ambitious coalition of more than 100 member countries, aiming to mobilize $1 trillion in investment for solar projects worldwide. Domestically, India pledged to achieve 500 gigawatts of non-fossil fuel electricity capacity by the year 2030, a target that would reshape its entire energy landscape. Fast forward to today. By mid-year 2025, India has installed more than 234 gigawatts of clean energy capacity, including large hydropower projects. In just 6 months, solar alone added more than 18 gigawatts, outpacing wind and bioenergy, which contributed about 3.5 gigawatts and a quarter gigawatt, respectively. These numbers are not just statistics. They represent thousands of new jobs, billions in investment, and tangible progress on the ground. For instance, solar parks now stretch across the sun-baked deserts of Rajasthan, while wind turbines spin along the gusty shores of Gujarat and Tamil Nadu. Yet here's the twist that many observers miss. Despite this record growth, clean energy accounts for less than a quarter of India's actual electricity consumption. A staggering 3/4 of the country's power, about 75%, still comes from coal, oil, and natural gas. India's energy demand is ballooning, fueled by rapid urbanization, industrial expansion, and the aspirations of over 1 billion people who increasingly expect reliable electricity. The government's response has been to pursue both paths at once, building up clean and conventional capacity in parallel. In fact, current plans call for the construction of 80 gigawatts of new thermal power projects, mostly coal-fired, over the coming years. This is not a simple energy transition. It is more like an energy balancing act. India is trying to walk a tightrope, expanding renewables to cut emissions and meet climate commitments, while simultaneously ensuring energy security and affordability for a population larger than the entire continent of Africa. The stakes are enormous. Every policy decision, every investment, and every technological breakthrough could tip the scales for decades to come. There are, however, major victories worth celebrating. One of the most promising developments is the rapid adoption of battery storage technologies. In the first half of 2025 alone, more than 7.5 gigawatts of battery energy storage systems were awarded to developers. This is crucial because solar and wind power are inherently intermittent. The sun doesn't always shine, and the wind doesn't always blow. By coupling renewables with storage, India can smooth out the peaks and valleys of power generation, strengthening grid stability and reducing the need to fall back on coal during demand spikes. Industry titans are taking note. Companies like the Jindal Group, NTPC, and Adani Green are making massive investments in projects that integrate solar or wind with advanced storage solutions. For example, Jindal secured nearly 1 gigawatt of solar plus storage capacity in recent auctions, while NTPC and Renew are each developing projects of similar scale. Even Reliance Power and JSW Energy, known for their traditional focus on fossil fuels, are pivoting towards clean energy and storage, signaling a broader shift in India's corporate landscape. Western states are leading the charge. Rajasthan is now the undisputed leader in renewables, boasting more than 37 gigawatts of installed capacity, 32 gigawatts from solar, and over 5 from wind. The state's vast desert expanses provide high solar irradiance, making it ideal for large-scale solar parks. Gujarat is not far behind, with more than 35 gigawatts in total, including more than 21 gigawatts of solar and nearly 14 gigawatts of wind. Tamil Nadu, meanwhile, excels in wind, with almost 12 gigawatts, and is also a top performer in bioenergy, contributing a full gigawatt to the national total. Innovative technologies are also gaining ground. India commissioned its first floating solar power plant, a 10-megawatt project, on a reservoir in Visakhapatnam in 2021. Floating solar reduces land requirements and can help address water evaporation. Small modular nuclear reactors are on the horizon as well, with the government approving the country's first such project in Bihar. And perhaps most exciting, India's first commercial-scale green hydrogen plant was launched in Assam in April 2024, marking the beginning of a bold new chapter in clean fuels. Still, beneath the optimism, experts warn of serious challenges that could stall the transition. Financing remains a persistent hurdle. While India's renewable sector has attracted global capital, more than $2.5 billion in loans were sanctioned for renewables in the past fiscal year alone. Sustaining this flow depends on policy certainty and risk mitigation. Debbie Prasad Mohanty of JM Financial emphasizes, policy consistency and a long-term vision are crucial for attracting sustained investment in the renewable sector. Grid infrastructure is another major bottleneck. Integrating vast amounts of variable solar and wind energy requires advanced transmission networks, smart metering, and real-time grid management. India's national grid was not designed for this degree of flexibility. If these upgrades lag behind, the result could be frequent bottlenecks, curtailment of renewable power, and even blackouts. Kameswara Rao from PwC India notes, integrating renewable energy into the grid requires significant investments in transmission infrastructure and energy storage solutions. Then there are regulatory and bureaucratic obstacles. Land acquisition for large-scale projects remains complicated, often facing legal challenges and local opposition. Giles Dixon of Wind Europe points out, India needs to streamline its wind energy auction process and address land acquisition challenges to accelerate deployment. Permitting processes for connecting projects to the grid can drag on for months, delaying returns and deterring investment. And while tariffs for battery storage are declining, recent auctions saw prices drop to around 4,000 rupees per megawatt hour for standalone systems. Costs are still high relative to fossil fuels. Perhaps the most formidable obstacle is coal itself. India remains the world's second-largest consumer of coal, after China. Coal provides jobs for millions, underpins heavy industry, and, crucially, is still seen by many policymakers as the cheapest, most reliable way to guarantee energy access for the poor and power-hungry manufacturing sector. The government's ambitious renewable targets are thus being pursued, alongside an equally robust expansion of coal-fired capacity. As Sushma Jagannath from Rystad Energy observes, India is not yet undergoing a true energy transition. Instead, it is focusing on building up installed capacity from both conventional and renewable energy sources to ensure energy security. This balancing act has profound implications not just for India, but for the world. If India can bend the curve towards clean energy, it has the potential to dramatically lower global costs for solar, wind, and storage technologies. Given its scale and manufacturing muscle, India's experience could serve as a blueprint for other emerging economies, showing how to leverage government targets, international finance, and indigenous innovation to accelerate the energy transition. But the risks are real. If grid upgrades, regulatory reforms, or storage deployments falter, India could find itself locked into decades of high-carbon infrastructure, jeopardizing not only its net-zero goals, but also the global fight against climate change. A more pessimistic scenario sees India falling short of its 500-gigawatt renewable target by 2030, perhaps achieving only around 450 gigawatts, while coal plants continue to anchor baseload supply and emissions remain stubbornly high. Supply chain disruptions, such as global shortages of solar panels or battery components, or even a cyber attack on the national grid, could further derail progress. There is also the challenge of ensuring a just transition, making sure that the benefits of cleaner energy reach all sections of society, not just urban elites or large corporations. As Ulka Kelkar of WRI India stresses, a just transition is essential to ensure the benefits of renewable energy reach all sections of society. This requires not only technical fixes, but also investments in workforce training, community engagement, and support for regions dependent on coal mining and thermal power generation. Let's take a closer look at what the future could hold for India's energy story. In the best case, most optimistic scenario, India achieves or even surpasses its 500-gigawatt renewable capacity target by 2030. This would involve breakthroughs in areas such as battery storage, green hydrogen production, and offshore wind power, a sector where India aims to develop 30 gigawatts by the end of the decade. Such a transformation could attract more than $700 billion in new investment, create millions of green jobs, and establish India as a global hub for clean energy manufacturing and exports. Imagine Indian companies not only powering the nation, but exporting advanced solar panels, wind turbines, and storage solutions across Africa, Southeast Asia, and beyond. This scenario would have ripple effects for the global energy market. By helping drive down the costs of key technologies, India could make clean energy more accessible for other developing countries, accelerating the global transition away from fossil fuels. The Indian Railways, for example, is already aiming to source 100% of its electricity from renewables by 2030, which would require about 30 gigawatts of capacity, an ambitious but achievable goal if current trends continue. However, the road to this future is not guaranteed. In a more restrained or moderate scenario, India's renewable rollout hits roadblocks such as financing shortages, slow grid expansion, or difficulties in acquiring land for new projects. In this case, India may reach only around 450 gigawatts of renewable capacity by 2030. Coal remains entrenched, especially in states where local economies depend on mining and thermal plants. Carbon emissions plateau rather than decline, and India's leadership in global climate talks is called into question. In the most disruptive downside scenario, external shocks such as global trade wars, supply chain disruptions, or geopolitical tensions cause delays and cost overruns. For instance, if a major trade dispute limits India's access to advanced solar panels or critical battery materials, project timelines could slip by years. A cyber attack on the national grid could shake investor confidence and stall deployment. In such a scenario, India would fall well short of its targets, and the world's battle against climate change would suffer a major setback, as India accounts for a significant share of global emissions. What does all this mean for you, the viewer, and for people around the world? First, India's energy choices will shape global markets and climate outcomes for decades. If India accelerates its clean energy revolution, it will not only meet its own needs, but also help make solar, wind, and storage technologies cheaper and more available worldwide. The reverse is also true. If India falters, the world's fight against climate change could be seriously undermined. Second, India's experience offers crucial lessons for other emerging economies. Ambitious government targets are necessary, but not sufficient. They must be matched by real investment in grid infrastructure, storage, land acquisition, and project approvals. Policy consistency is key. As Vibhuti Garg from IEEFA notes, India's renewable energy sector is attracting global capital, but effective risk mitigation strategies are needed to sustain growth. Third, for investors, entrepreneurs, and innovators, India is a living laboratory for new business models and technologies. Projects that combine solar, wind, storage, and even green hydrogen are being tested at unprecedented scale. Close attention to the Indian market could reveal the next big opportunity in global energy, a sector expected to attract more than $15 billion in battery storage investment by 2030. So the big question: can India truly overcome its coal addiction and leap into a clean energy future? The answer is that it is possible, but only if government, industry, and finance work in lockstep, making tough decisions now rather than later. The race is on to modernize the national grid, streamline land and permitting processes, and channel billions more into storage and smart infrastructure. As R.K. Singh, India's Minister of Power, affirms, India is committed to achieving its renewable energy targets and will continue to create a conducive environment for investment. Let's not forget a fascinating, little-known fact. India's first commercial-scale green hydrogen plant, commissioned in Assam in April 2024, is a sign of things to come. Green hydrogen, produced using renewable electricity, could one day rival solar and wind in reshaping the country's energy map. Oil India Limited, the company behind this plant, is already planning to expand operations and explore new markets, including exports to neighboring countries. Meanwhile, pumped hydro storage projects are gaining momentum. Greenko Group is investing more than $3 billion to develop a 30-gigawatt-hour pumped storage facility in Andhra Pradesh, which will help balance the grid and provide backup during periods of low wind or sun. These innovations could be game changers, enabling India to increase its share of renewables without sacrificing reliability. And on the policy front, the Central Electricity Regulatory Commission is drafting new regulations to make it easier to integrate energy storage systems into the grid, while the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy is actively promoting offshore wind development, targeting 30 gigawatts by 2030. These efforts, if successful, could further diversify India's energy mix and reduce its dependence on coal. In the end, India's energy journey is not just about kilowatts or carbon targets. It is about the fate of a nation of more than 1,400,000,000 people, all striving for a better life. It is about whether the world's largest democracy can power its rise without choking its skies or heating the planet beyond safe limits. The world is watching, and what happens in India will reverberate from New Delhi to New York, from Mumbai to Manila. So what do you think? Will India become the world's next clean energy leader, or will old obstacles block its path? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you found this deep dive into India's energy crossroads insightful, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell for more explorations of global economics and